Good evening, everyone. Robin from Penguin Maps. Chatting with a few people that I know about doing videos. I'm not really a video person, but the project behind me, I'm hoping is gonna be pretty epic. So I think it should, if I was gonna do a video, it should be about this build. I have got a couple of projects ongoing, maybe too many for too long. And the Ford Ranger, if anyone knows it, needs finishing. But I saw this Austin behind me, and with the direction I want my business to move into, not to try and be famous like other YouTubers or anything. There's absolutely no intention with these videos, but it's just a video log of the build and the process and my thoughts and how I want and what I want to make this truck, and you know what I want it to be. I mean, obviously I want it to be seen, recognized, and heads turned and unique, but at the same time I think a little bit obnoxious, and fast is good. I think I seen this a couple of months ago. I've been exceptionally busy this year, busier than I ever thought I would be, but as good as it is earning money from doing service and repairs and specialist work on the minis and stuff, fabrication is kind of where I want to go. If anyone's been following my Facebook, Instagram, etc., I have done a quick van build recently, as I needed something to pull around. I needed a tow bar, I needed to chuck stuff in, I needed something that I can just fly out with tools and stuff in to see people. But I do kind of want a recovery truck, and that's the thought process behind this. So I just thought, you know, give an idea of kind of where I'm thinking and where I want to go with the build before I start showing it, where I'm at, what condition it is in, and possibly the vast amount of work that is required that maybe I hadn't really thought about, or maybe I did and just thought, why not? So yeah, let's get a bit closer to the Austin. So basically it's a 1948 Austin K2. It is fairly complete. It's a 3.5 ton drop side pickup truck. So they do, I mean, obviously I've never really seen many of them. I don't know a great deal about them, only from what I've looked at since becoming interested in purchasing it. They do a K2, 3, 4, right up to an 8. I don't know if they do a 5 and 7. I think it's a 2, 3, 4, 6 and 8, and that's basically the payload. So this is technically what you'd call a class 7 3.5 ton vehicle, and they do a short wheelbase and a long wheelbase. So I think this is possibly short wheelbase because it's 16 foot end to end, and I may be wrong, but as the videos go on, hopefully I'll know more information. But end to end, it is 16 foot. So it's the engine is here, engine and gearbox. So it's a 4 litre straight 6 Austin petrol, with a 4-speed gearbox, which is there. Very cool. Well, one of the things I did like about it was it's actually crank start. So through the front it started with a crank handle, which I haven't seen, but to be fair, that doesn't really matter. I'm not using that. If we look The inlet manifold and exhaust manifold is actually unbolted, and then if you look very closely, the head bolts are not bolted down. So the guy that I brought it off, he brought it with the intention of restoring or hot rodding it. He acquired it through a mutual friend who'd brought a business, a storage and container business, and this vehicle was owned by a gentleman that had passed, and the family weren't sure what to do with it. They kind of kept paying for it, and in the end they were like, look, will you buy it? So he sold it to the guy that I got it off. His father was also converting another vehicle, I'm not sure, he did say. And then his father was unwell, so he decided to turn his attention to restoring or rodding the other vehicle and let this one go. So some of the things that are missing is I have one bonnet section, so it's an up and over kind of bonnet. I have no sides for the bonnet. I also have no front wheel arches, and I do have in the pilot bits over here, I do have the front bumper. The steps are wooden. There is the one section of the bonnet just there. There's a couple of brackets there. I believe they're for the wooden side steps. So I also have both the seats. In honesty, they are pretty rusty, but this is good. This is a good start. I mean, obviously any holes and stuff can be fixed, but I intend on reupholstering these, keep the retro look. I had looked at some Cobra RSRs, some classics, but then when I started adding all the features that I liked, they were like in excess of like £650 each. Whilst I'm not looking to keep original, I'm not trying to restore the vehicle, I'm definitely gonna ruin it. I think it'll be kind of cool to keep the seats. So kind of look at some of the exciting features of the vehicle. The tyres, 6-stud lorry split rims, completely flat, absolutely buggered. I mean, that's a flexi hose. So we've got kingpin steering as well here, underslung front axle, which is perfect. So I'm getting rid of the leaf springs, and I will be using airbags. So yeah, we're gonna pull up to meets, shows, whatever, park it up, and I will be sitting it on its ass. Yeah, so the steering box, I try to attach the steering box so I could get it moving. But yeah, inside, as you can see, there's the other seat. There's a lot of bushes in there. We actually have springs from the original seat as well there, which is good. I have all the glass as well, that's a brilliant. I believe that's a brilliant start. You know, it's a key part. The glass could be really tricky and expensive. I have both doors as well. They don't actually fit on, and they're substantially heavy. So one of the plans with the vehicle is a roof chop. So I'm gonna maybe 6-inch, bring it right down, which that's going to be a lot of work. I've not done anything like that. So I'm going to be doing a lot of research, drawing, planning, guessing, measuring, bodging, cutting, welding, see how it goes. And then obviously the glass will have to be cut, so I'll find a glazier or someone to do that for me. It's a cable handbrake, absolutely jam solid. But I mean, generally speaking, the whilst very cosmetically corroded, it is quite solid. I'm gonna have to fabricate up a dash. Some of the other things that I thought were kind of cool was it's got little vents on the side here, so little air vents. It's also got a roof vent. If that was a Subaru, it'd be a fortune. I'm gonna try and keep the radiator. I think it's kind of cool. It looks generally in good shape. But one of the things here that, yeah, we've talked about the engine, but one of the things I haven't mentioned is the plan with the engine. Some of you may have seen some of my pictures, posts, and little reels and stuff that I've put on there. But the engine that I plan to run, excuse that, let's go soon, is Cummins 6BT. I had planned to go Mercedes OM 648, but I think, you know, I was never a diesel fan. I've always been petrol, turbo, you know, kind of what I liked. And then I had a couple of diesels, and yeah, the torque really is appealing. And I think there's something quite funny about a really noisy diesel, especially HGV stuff. I'm not really HGV kind of guy, but I mean, who doesn't like a Scania V8 when they're on full boost? They just sound wicked. Not quite the same, but there's just something about the Cummins. Loads of people, friends of mine, had suggested doing the Cummins, but I think it didn't really cross my mind because it was that outlay of buying that engine and gearbox. It's just so much. But then when I was looking at, obviously, the tuning potential of the 648, because I have one here in a relatively decent car that I was just going to sacrifice and use. By the time I'd added, so to kind of achieve 300 horsepower, which is the figure I'm aiming for, so I'd have to go high pressure pump, higher rated injectors, a bigger turbo, bigger intercooler. Then I've got to get a loom from a OM613, an ECU from a OM613, and then obviously a wiring loom and a daft. So that would have meant hours of pinning out, converting, figuring out from two different vehicles that aren't meant to be together to make a loom or buy one. So I mean, before it even got to the point where I'm going to put it in, I calculated roughly around about £2,500 just to get that magic figure. And that didn't even get me to a gearbox that was usable. So obviously the OM648 that I have has got a 5-speed automatic because it's from a E320 W211 E320. So obviously with me adapting that, I wouldn't have no module to control the gearbox. So then I've got to buy an aftermarket module, which again was another £2,000, and what is quite a weak gearbox. I mean, they're not the greatest at the best of times in a normal road car, but then obviously putting it in a truck, 3.5 ton HGV light goods vehicle, I just couldn't see it really being feasible. So then I was going to be looking at ZF 6-speed out of a BMW conversion, then looking at the adapter plates for a manual. It's another 1,500 quid. So long and short of it is, I managed to find this with a ZF 5-speed out of a daft 45, 92, I believe. It's about 220k on the clock. I have no idea if it runs. I haven't even tried to turn it over yet. I've just generally checked the usual stuff. Turbo feels great. So I've obviously checked for playing the turbo. I opened up the fuel filter housing, and there was diesel in it, and it looked relatively clean. But yeah, I mean, you can't really see, it's a bit dark, but that's a very large turbo. That is very big. So the potential with the Cummins, the 300 brake horsepower that I'm aiming for, is quite achievable at not a lot of outlay for the modifications required to make that power. A few little mods to the injection pump, some nozzles for the injectors, which are very reasonably priced, very simple to do. I can do that. Bit of tweaking with the governor, etc. And yeah, lots of smoke, and 300 horsepower would be very achievable, with a nice decent size intercooler. So I mean, obviously, some of the mods I'm gonna have to do is the gear selector. So obviously that's meant for when you'll be kind of sat above this in a daft. But when I'm in the truck, I'm in the rod, I'm going to be kind of here, I think. So that then obviously means I've got to fit this in there. So the physical width of it, in comparison to the physical width of the cab, does lead to some interesting modifications. I mean, in particular, the width of the chassis itself. That's definitely something I've got to consider. And then obviously, if you look at the length from the front to the body, then compare it to the length of the engine, I've got a lot of difference. So some of my thought processes there was extend the chassis, basically, was kind of what I was thinking. So then it was like, do it like kind of extend in the middle and bring it all back. But then all I'm doing is extending the rear. I think overall I would like the rear to be longer, with the with the intention of it being a recovery truck. It would be sensible to do that. I haven't decided on how I want the recovery truck to be, whether I have a beaver tail or some kind of PTO lift, like. So that's something I another time, another video, trying not to spit bull crap and bore people on a video that I didn't think I'd do, but it seemed sensible to do. So the middle, extending the rear, that's an option, but it isn't going to be an option to accommodate the Cummins. So I think realistically, I'm going to have to extend the chassis forwards, which I can't see it being an issue. The biggest issues obviously are the controls to the cab, but the controls that are currently there are obsolete in regards to the clutch, brakes and throttle. Firstly, the brakes, it's got drum brakes all round. It's just not feasible with the power I'm going and what I would do with it. It just isn't feasible. One of the things I found very quickly already is the parts are pretty hard to find. So I purchased it at the weekend, and after agreement of purchasing it, I have been actively seeking parts. I didn't know what parts I'd need, but I needed to look, because it was obvious I was going to need some, and I just haven't been able to find much. As of yet, all I've been offered is a badge grille and 2 sections of the bonnet that are missing. One of the other items that have is I got the 2 wheel arches, but I have the original windscreens. They are split screen, but the frames are just rotten, incomplete, and the seals are no good, so that's another option. Logan, a guy that I've managed to get chatty with one of the guys on the industrial estate. He works with the HGVs. He's looking into my wheel rims. The wheels have led on to some other questions there, along with the brakes. So I need disc brakes on the front at least, whilst I can keep the drums on the rear. The problem I've got with the drums on the rear, that's the wheel cylinder. I'm 99.9% sure they're both knackered. The shoes are going to be knackered. So I have not seen anywhere that sells the drums, the shoes, or the cylinders as yet. So then obviously again, the axle was designed for a 4-litre petrol built in the late 30s, early 40s, that I think was 75 horsepower, which was quite a lot in its day, I should imagine. But I doubt very much it was designed for the standard 150 horsepower of the Cummins. So I don't think that's going to take the power. It isn't going to have the right ratios. It's just going to be just awful to drive. So then I've been looking at axles with wheels. So Logan's very kindly taken 2 of the, because it's dual wheels on the back, he's taken 2 of the wheels to split down and kind of assess them. They're in need of full restoration. Well, not restoration as such, but they're going to need some work. I mean, you can see that they're pretty corroded. One of the snags I hit today, just kind of getting it ready to move, because I've used the ramp that I work from mostly to get it off the trailer that I picked it up on. I've got it stuck here now. The rear wheels are seized on. The rear wheels are loose because they're meant to be duals, and they're imperial. Everything I have socket wise is metric. Have some imperial spanners, but no sockets, so I'm gonna have to buy sockets if I want to strip it down. Everything's going to be the same, so obviously I've got to remove the leaf springs. I'm going to extend the chassis. I'm going to notch it, bag it, 4-link. So obviously, you know, because there's no fixings to the axle to hold it once I take these off. So obviously, you know, it's got to be attached to the vehicle, which will then pivot with the suspension. So I've got to go shocks and bags. Then I've got to work out what load capacity of bags I want. Budget is key here. I don't want to spend thousands. I don't have thousands. So it is a shoestring budget bodge build. I think it's a fair point. But so I think I'm going to change axles. So because I don't know how I will be able to convert discs to the front on the PCD and wheel studs to fit these wheels. So finding disc brakes for a vehicle that didn't have disc brakes has proven difficult. So my thought process was, a couple of guys have shouted this to me, and it's kind of what I was thinking anyway, but it kind of confirmed this probably what I'm gonna have to do, is I'm gonna have to look at American axles. So I've reached out to a couple of groups tonight. The Dodge 2500, Dodge Ram 2500, which came with the same engine in the Cummins, which they did, you may have seen them, the Cummins dualies, with the big wide rear tubs. twin wheels. You've got to be twin wheels. I'm building HGV. It will just suit the look, you know, what I see in my mind's eye, the look that I'm going for with the build. That axle will work well. And then the front brake, I mean, obviously I'm pretty sure, I'm not entirely sure really. I don't really know much about the American stuff, but I'm pretty sure the front setup on the Ram, the Dodge Ram with the Cummins, is double wishbone with a kind of spring over coil setup. But with how I want the suspensions work, I'd like to keep the underslung axle, because the steering them, you know, the steering, the brakes, the setup, the way that what I see with the front suspension, with the bags for the budget, it kind of all messes up really. And what I don't want to do is end up having different wheels front to rear because of the different studs. I want to keep the HGV wheels. Some big wide chrome truck wheels is perfect. I mean, they're imperial sized but they're 20-inch lorry wheels, which is kind of what I wanted, the lorry look. So there's just so much that I just didn't think about. But isn't that what projects are about? You kind of, you have the image of what you want, but then it's the build process in between it and working through all these things, and that's what I'm kind of hoping the video would show, the sheer madness of it, for one, and hopefully maybe people can see where I'm going with it, what, you know, some of the trucks, some of the builds that have given me the inspiration of what I see in my mind. For instance, Steve Darnell of Welder Up. I mean, we've all seen the D-Rod with these 1200 horsepower Cummins. I mean, I'm not aiming for anything like that, but it's just that look. Whilst I'm not looking for the double cab, super low, as cool as it is, it's kind of that has been my inspiration. But then one of the other programs with the builds that I kind of liked is where I want to move with the business is Texas Metal. I don't know if you've seen those guys. I mean, I'm not looking to build the big, high, jacked up pickup trucks, but just that fabrication process, that the way they work with making their axles and their custom drivetrain and 4-link setup and air suspension. That's just kind of what I want to bring to it as well, and kind of what I want to do. I want to build something that people can go, I want one of them. Can you build it? And hopefully these videos will kind of be a history timeline in the future for potential customers to be like, yeah, I think this guy's just stupid enough to do this for me. Or maybe I'm just a genius and I didn't know it. But yeah, so I'm hoping that people will like my videos, will watch, and they're interested in it. And then when it is finished, potentially come to see it wherever I take it. And hopefully this will be a daily drive. So I hope I haven't bored you too much. I hope this is the beginning of some cool videos. It's definitely going to be the beginning of a real nightmare. I'm not unsure on what timescale I've got. Erin, a lot of you may know Erin, Diamond. Her strict instructions were, I don't really care, just fix my car first. So that's a key to the build. So yeah, like, subscribe. I'm hoping the lad, little Robin, who's not so little anymore, is gonna edit this, make it a little bit more interesting to look at, and I look forward to doing some more videos. Good night.